Hi, I'm Andy. I'm one of the co-founders here at Moddable, and I'm here to welcome you to our very first monthly Moddable Community Call here for January 2023. We're pre-recording this first one just to kind of get the ball rolling on these calls, but next month we'll be doing this live on Zoom, and we'll welcome community members to join us with questions and comments. The link to that call will be in the February release notes, and we hope that you'll keep an eye out for that and join us next month with all of your questions. On each of these calls every month, the central topic of the call will be the monthly release. We'll be highlighting new features of the Moddable SDK, covering news and other topics of interest to the Moddable community. So just to get us started here this month, I want to let you all know that Moddable will be at FOSDEM 2023. That's a conference that's going to be happening in Brussels on the weekend of February 4th and 5th. We'll have a table there with a number of demos of open source projects that are included in the Moddable SDK. So we encourage everybody to come. FOSDEM is free to attend. If you happen to be in Belgium, please stop by and say hello for us. And you can find us by looking for the stand titled Embedded JavaScript, Moddable SDK, and Node-RED MCU Edition. We'll be there all weekend and look forward to seeing you there. We have a lot of new content on the Moddable blog that came out during the month of December and is new to the January release. The most comprehensive of those posts is this, the Year in Review blog post. This covers way too much content to go over on this call, but it's well worth a read. It covers all the major updates to the XS engine and the Moddable SDK from 2022, and that's a lot of stuff. This was a big year for the Moddable SDK. Highlights of that work include major steps forward in implementing the ECMA 419 standard, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, providing many additional tools in the Moddable SDK to make the developer experience more convenient, and continued growth in our support for new microcontrollers and development boards. In addition to the Year in Review blog post, there were 3 other posts authored on the Moddable blog in the month of December. The first 2 were about the XS Performance Profiler, which was a key feature in the December 2022 release. The first of those blog posts covers the what and the why of the XS Performance Profiler, walking you through the features of the profiler and how to use it. The second blog post covers the how, with a very in-depth walkthrough of optimizing an implementation of Conroy's Game of Life in JavaScript. It digs way down into seeing exactly which functions in the application are taking the most time to execute, how you can improve those by looking at what features of XS and the Moddable SDK those functions are making use of, how you can use native code to improve the performance of critical components of your application, and what that whole package can look like in terms of a major 10x improvement in how many frames per second of Conroy's Game of Life we can draw, process and draw. The third blog post, authored in December, is about the Moddable Holiday Wreath, which you can see right here in this video. This project shows off our new and expanding support for sensors and displays in Node-RED MCU. Here you see the wreath itself, which is playing music and animating a sequence of lights using a strip of neopixels. And on the right there, you can see the Node-RED flow that is powering this whole thing. So if this is all new to you, we encourage you to look into our Node-RED MCU project, a link to which is right here below. This brings us to the meat of this call, which is to go through our latest release and the highlights of the release notes. This is release 3.6.0, and it was released in January 2023. And it includes a number of new features and bug fixes, of course, but we're going to highlight just a few of them here on this call, the biggest new features and new things you can look forward to when you update your Moddable SDK. The first of those is that Git repositories can now be included in project manifests. So if you've worked with the Moddable SDK, you know that every project includes a manifest.json file. And typically we use that to include libraries, JavaScript modules that are local to your machine. With this new feature, you can actually put in a link, a reference direct to a Git repository, and those repositories will be cloned for you as part of the build process by mcconfig or mcrun, and the repository itself will be stored with the project's temporary build files. There are details available in the manifest documentation, that's manifest.md on our GitHub repository. But here you can see a demonstration of this new feature in action. A second highlight of the 3.6.0 release is the ability to redirect debug output to your development terminal instead of to the Moddable SDK's dedicated debugger XSBug. This is now supported on builds for Simulator and ESP32 builds on all platforms, and this is great for doing headless development, like on a Raspberry Pi. And here you can see this new feature in action. The 3.6.0 release also includes support for two new development boards. First, we have the M5 Atom S3, seen here, and second, the Adafruit ESP32 S3 TFT Feather development board, seen here. In addition to baseline support for these boards, we also have a newly contributed IMU example for the M5 Atom S3 that shows off using the inertial unit in the device to get access to accelerometer, gyro, that sort of thing on the M5 Atom S3. Support for 3 new sensors was added in the month of December. And all 3 of these new sensor drivers are built to the ECMA 419 spec, so they're conformant with the JavaScript for an embedded system specification that Moddable's very involved in the development of. And those 3 sensors are the APDS9301 ambient light sensor, the VL6180 proximity and ambient light sensor, and the incredibly popular HC-SR04 proximity/distance sensor. That SR04 part is a ultrasonic distance sensor that's often used in robotics projects. The HC-SR04 sensor implementation is built on top of a new experimental ECMA 419 pulse width input, implemented currently just on the ESP32. And here you can see that in action in XSBug, putting out a kind of running log of distance to my hand as I move back and forth in front of the sensor. And finally, this release brings 2 new networking implementations to the Moddable SDK's ECMA 419 networking stack. The first is an implementation of a TLS client socket. This brings TLS support and HTTPS support to the Moddable SDK's ECMA 419 networking implementation. In addition to kind of the raw support for HTTPS, we've also integrated it into our implementation of the Fetch API. So now you can use Fetch to pull down websites over HTTPS using TLS. And then second, we also now have an implementation of the web's event source API. This is a part of the HTML5 standard that can be used to receive server-sent events using either ECMA 419 HTTP or ECMA 419 HTTPS. Server-sent events are a standard, lightweight way for a web page, and now an embedded device, to receive a continuous stream of events from a server. This is a great fit for resource-constrained devices because of the fact that the data that you're getting comes streamed and doesn't have to be all read into memory at once. So that's all the great new stuff that's included in the 3.6.0 release of the Moddable SDK. Now, you may be asking, how do I get that great stuff? How do I update my Moddable SDK? Or, if you're new here, how do I get started with the Moddable SDK? Well, do I have a new feature for you? In this month's release notes, we're encouraging people to check out a preview of a brand new project called XSDev. Our friend Nick here has been leading this project with the goal of making it easier to install and update the Moddable SDK. This is an open source project that you can see right here on GitHub. And essentially, XSDev automates the steps listed in Moddable's Getting Started guides for each of our supported host build platforms and for each of our embedded targets. So doing setup using XSDev saves a lot of time and eliminates mistakes in particularly error-prone steps of the setup process. It's really a great thing, and several of us at Moddable have been helping contribute to this, and several members of the open source community have been contributing also. And so we really hope people have a chance to check it out. We hope to soon change over to recommending XSDev as the default way to manage your Moddable SDK setup. But before we make that recommendation, we'd like to see some more developers give it a try, kind of test things out. And so we're really interested in hearing from everybody in the community about what in XSDev works, what could be easier to understand, and anything that goes wrong along the way. And we're particularly interested in anybody that's new to the Moddable SDK project and that would be able to run XSDev on a machine that has never had the Moddable SDK installed, or perhaps never had the ESP32 toolchain from Espressif installed before. Those are kind of the cases that are most difficult for the people that are deeply involved in XSDev and the Moddable SDK to test. So getting new people involved would really help us out a lot there. So if you have a few minutes, take a look and give it a try. We'd really appreciate it, and come and chime in on any of our various social media platforms to let us know how it goes. Thank you. The Moddable SDK would not be what it is today without contributions from many members of the community. And given that this is our community call, we want to take a moment to recognize everybody that has contributed to this January release. This was really a very active month for new issue reports, feature requests, and contributions to the Moddable SDK repository. So here on screen, you can see a number of people that have jumped in and helped us out in various ways over the course of this month. Everything from contributing bug reports and suggested fixes to contributing new platforms and features and examples in the Moddable SDK, all the way through to something that I'm particularly excited about this month, which was a couple of folks that helped by contributing new features in our documentation, a new table of sensors and drivers supported by the Moddable SDK, and a new list of supported ESP32 S3 development boards. But everybody up here played a big part in the 3.6.0 release, and we thank you so much for contributing. So with that, I want to wrap up this call. Just as a reminder, next month we'll do this live, and we welcome questions and comments from the community. We hope you'll be able to join us live on Zoom, and look for that invitation and information in both the February release notes and on all of our various social media platforms. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please drop by our Gitter to chat, start a new discussion on our GitHub repository, or contact us on Twitter at ModdableTech. Otherwise, we will see you next month after the February release. Thank you for watching.